All right. So on this episode of the Insomnicat Show, we are interviewing two of your favorite people, us.
I was like, where's this going? There's no one else on the show right now.
But today we're going to talk about marketing, which we talk about often, but we're going to talk about marketing of the future. I mean, like, think about marketing with no limits, marketing with no restrictions, marketing with no technology restrictions, no law restrictions, just complete lawlessness and futurism. So, I mean, I really started thinking about this when I was laying down and I was like, wow, what would the future of marketing look like? I'm so bored with marketing. I know that sounds terrible, but I mean, how much content can we do? How much, how many email campaigns can we kick off? It's just as creative as people are trying to get, it's just kind of only somewhat building on the thing that came before, and it's not anything really groundbreakingly new. So I started thinking about, well, what do I even want? What would I even think is cool? And that's where this idea came from.
I gotcha. Okay.
All right. So today I want to challenge you and I to think about any futuristic type of marketing that we would like to see in the future, or what could possibly happen. I mean, like, think about the Jetsons on steroids. Like, it's beyond that, it's
Right.
beyond that. What does the future look like? And I think one of the first things I started thinking about, obviously, because when people talk about the future, they talk about robots, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, well, where can robots fit into marketing of the future? So, I thought about, well, instead of people just going on your website, reading your content or reading your reviews or reading whatever, there are robots just, strolling around the streets, and they have samples of products, and they have, maybe they're filled with knowledge. Maybe they're walking computers and they have reviews on them, or, you could read more.
Well, if you think about it, like, turn of the century, you had all those guys that were going from town to town selling stuff, even up into probably like I don't even know, probably like 30s, 40s, maybe even 50s, maybe later even. But people going and selling things door to doors, whether they were vacuum cleaners, encyclopedias, so it's not really unprecedented, because that's actually one form of the original marketing. People literally knocking on doors to see if people were interested in things. So you could see that robot. I mean, the cool thing about it is those robots, like you said, they actually have a lot of data, and they can take the products with them, right? So it's interesting. So it's almost like a traveling store, to some degree.
All right, wait. So think about, I just thought of something else. All right, maybe this is not even marketing, but imagine there's like humanoid robots walking around with 3D printers inside of them that mm-hmm. then print whatever thing you just ordered right there and then. Like, how cool would that be?
Well, I think I don't even know if it's going to be in my opinion, I mean, 3D printing is totally different, right? Now we're talking about.
I know, I just went somewhere totally different.
But I actually have been saying this for years. I think what's going to happen is everyone's going to have some sort of closet or some sort of room with massive 3D printers, and they're going to be 3D printing everything in the future. And it's just the reality. They're going to have materials delivered to their house, right? And whatever those plastics or metals are, they're going to be stored in, they're going to be loaded up, just like you get your gas sent to your house, or your water or your oil. You can get loaded up on these materials, and you can be able to 3D print from them,
Well, and just, I'll bring back the robots then. So now you're in your home, you're 3D printing your stuff, and there are robots walking around trying to, in essence, sell you different materials, right? So try this mm-hmm. material today, or how about this material? This material did this, and showing off like these cool creations. And so the robot is the marketer, the robot is the marketer. And I think it's like a super, like, just, I'm really talking about a guy on the street. Like,
it's interesting too, because, you just brought up something else, right? You're talking about, first, I'm the Amazon robot, and I'm walking around your neighborhood, right? And I'm offering you products, right? But what if it's your personal robot, right? Instead of, so people, how like, you know how like people rent solar panels now, which is like crazy. Maybe people can't afford to buy the robot, so they're renting the robot. So it's showing them a commercial every 15
Right.
minutes while it's doing
Right.
stuff in their house. I mean, it could be interesting where it could go. I actually think before that the AI, meaning it is going to take over the house, right? You're going to have more AI in your house that's going to be able to offer you stuff. Before I think you have that sort of Android-esque or tangible, that robot moving around. I think one of the things where no limits. Think about the how, everyone talks about the smart home, but I mean, we're really talking about just really command-based things,
The
right?
smart home isn't that smart. I mean,
Right, that's what I'm saying. You ask it for something very particular, it's command based. I mean, what if it's like, okay, your house, your entire house, think about it, is sort of like touch sensitive, right? So as you're moving through your house, whether you're walking or you're going somewhere or you're going upstairs, it's sort of going, okay, it knows you're going to get changed, right? Because you're headed towards your room or whatever the case is. So it's like, here's clothing. Oh, I don't like that shirt. You know what I mean? Let me order a new one or 3D print a new one and get a design or whatever the case is. So it's showing you like think about it. You're swiping through your clothing. Okay, I'm going to pick the blue shirt today or whatever the case is. And, for me, it'd be easy because I always wear the same stuff. But, you're actually, it's actually marketing to you as you're moving through your house, as you're looking through your current physical surroundings and what you currently have in stock, right? Because it's just data. If it has an index of everything in your house, okay, this is the clothing I have, or this is the food. I'm walking to the refrigerator. Do you know what I mean? What do I have to eat? What can I make? What are all the recipes that I can make based on the stuff that's currently in the queue? So I think the marketing is, I think before you get to the robot aspect, but maybe I'm wrong. I think it's going to be more sensitivity in the house and being able to connect to your current environment. And I'm saying your house just because we're talking about a house, but that could be anywhere. You're walking down the street, you're getting hungry. What restaurants are there? How do you interact with that whole environment as you're moving through it? I think really, and I'm not talking about really virtual reality. I'm talking about really interacting with the environment.
right, exactly. Because we're talking about the future. And I feel like, I want to go back to the house though for a second. Hold on. So think about the house, think about brand partnerships, right? I think once you're in a really smart, futuristic home, brand partnerships can take on a whole new level because, okay, so you have a clothing brand and they team up with, I don't know, a hanger company, right? And so now those hangers you buy are always trying to push this particular, clothing brand on you. And so you can really open up more opportunity in the brand partnership space.
Right. And what's interesting, and I think what happens is it's interesting because the question is, how do you get into someone's home, right? You're not going to, and I think that's where it's going to go. It's going to be like, even, with the current AI, it will recommend things to you, but it's sort of like in your control, right? How do you control it versus not control it? Like, how do you integrate it in a way where it doesn't seem like, here, I'm just trying to sell you a whole bunch of stuff today, right? Because I think when you get it into someone's house, it has a very different feel than if you're using a website that, maybe you're going to see a display it, right? Or you sign up for a newsletter and you're going to get marketed to. I think it's a very different feel when someone's in their safe place, right? Like how sensitive will companies have to be?
Well, remember, this is a world without laws. This is a
Right.
world without limits. This is a world where you don't have to worry about people's feelings and, you don't have to worry about germs and you don't have to worry about anything, right? You just do. And this is the kind of like, this is the world I'm picturing for marketing, at least. And so I feel like if we can go to that place of extremism with the marketing, then we could kind of rein it in and work backwards and say, okay, well, how do we actually, like you're doing, how do we actually make that happen once we have this bigger picture vision of however crazy I may sound, But if you're talking about how to weave it in, this is where I think there's a good comparison to content marketing, right? So instead of, you're on your phone or, you're reading something, newsletters, any sort of, content marketing is supposed to educate you. So instead of it being a very like two-dimensional kind of education. Instead, you have, you know, you have screens all over your house, or you have not screens, but like imaginary and picture, you know,
Well,
like a
no, I think as
really, but
technology.
it's not screens that you read. They're like people that pop up and they talk to you, you know, like I want to learn how to
Mhm.
I want to learn how to build whatever, a desk. And so I, you know, swipe my air, and up comes my friend the builder, Bob the builder, and he comes up and he's talking to me about how to build a house. But as he's talking to me about how to build a house, he's recommending certain products that I'm sorry, a desk that I need to buy. And the sponsorship is really, you know, you're kind of playing on what the user is actually asking for, but integrating the products into the actual answer in human format. So he's
Mhm.
talking to me. Maybe it's like a chatbot on steroids, and it's humanoid chatbot, and he actually has a personality. I don't know, you know. But he says, "Hey, you really need that X product from wherever."
Yeah, I think I guess that's my point. I think you almost can't. You know, it's almost like as you're going through it, right? Did you ever see? Did you ever? You know what? You know what's starting to remind me of? Did you ever watch Upload on Amazon Prime and Amazon TV?
No.
So the concept of the show is when you die, they pretty much download your brain, right? Who you are digitally, and then they throw you in these simulated worlds. So your loved ones can keep visiting you, right? But everything costs money that you do, like whether you have on clothes that are just not like plain like sweatpants, like if you want a shirt, you gotta pay money for it, right? Or you know, like so everything costs. And I think we're talking about that, but not that you're a digital creature, right? You're, you know, you're actually a live human being interacting with the world. But how does it do it where it's not annoying? So I think that's what I'm saying. Like it has to be
Well, it's based
integrated.
on the need, Brian. It's no
Yeah.
different than me Google searching how to build a desk. You know, I'm looking for that. So, I mean, Bob isn't just popping up in my home and he's like, "Hey, you want to learn how to build a
Right,
desk?"
right. I get, yeah. But think about how you could go. Okay, what am I looking to wear to this? You know, I got a wedding to go to, right? I need a new dress, or I need a new shirt, or whatever the case is. Let me see what's in my closet. Nothing I like, and then all of a sudden it starts giving you recommendations on here's where you shop, right? Like it's really integrated into what you're doing, you know. And I think, I mean, what's crazy is, you know, talking about that sort of digital aspect of ourselves, it's almost like if you had no laws, no restrictions, it's like, you know, and I know people joke around that our smartphones are always listening to us and they know our thoughts and, you know, all this stuff, but it's almost like if you could sort of, it's always listening, always monitoring, figuring out like, oh, I don't have anything to wear, okay, here's the recommendations, do you know
Right,
what I mean?
right,
Right,
right.
then
So if we
that's
didn't
what
have to worry
solves
about
that.
privacy laws, and we didn't
Right.
have to worry about, you know, people, you know, worrying about eavesdrop, all of that. If you didn't have to worry about that, you know, you may actually like the fact that someone was listening. If there wasn't the negative aspect to it,
Well, I think if people had that data in their control,
right?
right? That's really what it comes down to, because, you know, when you use a device, you know, it gets uploaded somewhere. It's not being stored in the device, you know, necessarily. In some cases it is, but it's not being stored in the device and it's in your control. It's being stored so, you know, they could learn from, you know, the information that's being inputted to make the AI better, right? You know, I don't think it's used for a malicious intent. I'm sure a lot of people out there think it is, but I think it's just so the AI gets better and it gets to know you better. And like, you know, if you use even AI, like you could set it up for different people in the house so it
Right.
recognizes the voices, right? Which
Well, you
makes
have your own. I think everybody would have their own profile
right.
in the, you know, world.
Hmm. Right. And you have your own assistant or whatever the case is,
Right.
right? Your own, because it's
Oh,
just like your browsing history, it's catered to you,
uh-huh.
right? You
But
know,
it
but
wouldn't get confused if, like, my son comes and browses on my computer. It doesn't know that it's not me, and YouTube then serves me all these awesome videos that I'm not really interested in.
right.
It's not like that, because I am, from the time I'm born, I have this virtual counterpart that kind of comes with me through life and follows me. And I mean, there's some really cool
Right.
stuff
So
there.
it's like your social security number, but it's an assistant.
Right. Yes. But here's the thing. So I think so far we've talked about like a new way to content create in the marketing world, a new way to kind of give samples and
Mhm.
reviews, and that we also, I think it creates a new way to do influencer marketing.
Yeah.
So let's say you have your virtual being,
Mm-hmm.
virtual social security card,
Right.
and now you can start adding to your like crew of
Right.
people.
Like you connect to.
Right. So now there's an influencer out there, and they are a digital influencer. So these aren't real people. These are in the digital world. We like,
Mhm.
Sally, she's great. I follow her because I want her to be on
Right.
my team. So then think about the influencer partnership there, because now they can go and get sponsorship. And as you connect with them and they're just kind of in your day-to-day life, like
Mhm.
she's my girlfriend. She's, chatting with
Right.
me.
Even though it's
Like,
not
I
a
really
real
like
person or
your
the
views.
influencer is not based on a real person. Right.
Right. But then she's also serving me up some stuff that her sponsors want her to serve me in the
Right.
midst of that.
Right. So the digital influencer is sponsored, right? So
Right.
it's helping you out, right? So it's like an AI or an app that gets added to your world. So basically what we're talking about is RPGs, role playing games on computers, because that's sort of what happens. You have your character and
Mhm.
then you add people to your party. Like especially if you look at the adventuring type games like D&D, it's sort of like that. You go, okay, where am I weak or what interests me? Do you know what I mean? And you're adding people in that could actually help you through your world, right? But at the same time, they're adding recommendations in like, okay, Brian, that is a really ugly hat. You need to change it. Right? Like, because it's not cool enough or it's not trendy enough or
Right.
whatever the case is, right? So they're adding other things in, and they're not just and maybe it's not just products, maybe it's services. Like they're saying to you, okay, you need some therapy, like
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or you need to work on your jujitsu, or you need to work on and it's other services, not just product-based things.
Right. Yeah. I
So that
mean,
would be pretty cool.
I think that would be super cool. I'm kind of excited about this
Yeah.
alternate
But
reality. I've
and
just
and I think to make it clear for everyone watching, we're not talking about like throwing on some virtual reality goggles. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a really interactive digital universe. Everything in front of you is digital. Everything is interactive. Not like I put it on and I'm seeing this fake world that was created by someone and I'm sitting in my seat. We're talking about a truly interactive universe.
yeah. Now, what other forms of marketing? I just want to take a look at some traditional forms of marketing that we could kind of convert into this new world. So again, we talked about content, we talked about influencers. What about like the email marketing newsletter?
Well, I mean, I think that's like anything else. That's going to become, be sent to your whatever piece you're. If we're talking about like that interactive home, it's going to be sent wherever you're interacting with, right? So it's always with you. Like you may be getting that email as you're walking up your stairs. Do you know what I mean? Because you decide you want to check your email at that point, and you're going to be able to read it, or it's going to be read to you, right? I mean, eventually, the what's crazy is the concept of typing. Like if you look at young kids, the concept of typing is going away. They're using so much of the verbal aspect of AI, because what happens is like little kids, they may not necessarily know how to spell. Like my daughters will be like, okay, mermaid, and they'll put it into the AI for us being able to spell it. So I think what's going to happen is that world is going to be very interactive from a verbal perspective, right?
Well, I
That's
don't even think there would be an email newsletter. Like I think to replace the newsletter, you would have, if
Well,
we
that's my
send,
point. It would be audio or video. It wouldn't be.
or no, but even like a I really like, okay, let's get rid of the robot for a second.
Right.
Let's do like a drone, okay, or something, beyond a drone. I don't know. This little thing kind of flies into your house,
Mhm.
and let's say the newsletter is about whatever. We send an e-design it newsletter about technology and stuff. So
Right.
instead of us reading that or hearing that, even maybe it's a video. Maybe we're in each article, and those things are happening around us, or in some sort of immersive way. And I mean, immersive is not far
Right.
off, so it's not really kind of far-fetched, but and those things are happening. So a guy creates a new whatever 3D printer, and
Mhm.
we are kind of in that room with him where he's talking about it,
Mhm.
and so we can't communicate. It's not a two-way conversation, but we're in that article instead of reading that article or listening to that article.
Right. Well, I think it's going to be right in the context like anything else, right? It's going to be in the context of the device, you're currently interacting in. And let's sort of break that down. So if we talked about that world of it being a home, right? So it may look that message, I'm not saying the content, but the message may look different of how it's displayed out. First, think about it. Drones already have this follow mode. So you could get a drone and put in follow mode and it will follow you around, right?
Oh my gosh, the companies just deploy, instead of deploying a newsletter, they just deploy their swarm of drones.
Well, I wasn't suggesting that. I was just saying your drone, like if you have your personal drone and say it's carrying around all your AIs, like all your little digital friends you selected, right? You know, so you're now going on, you decide you're going on a hike or a bike ride or something, and your little drone is carrying around your AI, right? Because it's just digital. He's carrying around your AI, or she's carrying around your AI, or whatever your drone's gonna be, right? And it's carrying around the AI. But maybe it's like, okay, you're going on a bike. All of a sudden, you get a message in from, you know, you're riding your bike. All of a sudden, you get a message in from me, design it. It's showing it to you or whatever, which is probably not good that you're interacting with the thing while you're riding a bike. But you get my point. Like, you know, but I think it's gonna be based, like anything. It's gonna be based on the device. Or you're standing there, you're having a conversation with your robot in your house, right? And maybe that message comes in, and they're like, hey, here's this thing. Do you want to go visit? You know, do you want to go?
Did you hear about this new thing? So,
right.
So even the speech is different. It's
right.
you know, but I just like that whole concept, because we think of email, you know, we think of deploying a message. So forget a computer, just send out, you have, you know, whatever, 700,000 drones and mini drones, and they know where to go, you know,
right.
and they're just kind of waiting. They come, they give you your message, and then they go back, and then they're redone for the next.
I honestly, you know, we talked about like the digital storefronts, right? And things being delivered to you. And I mean, that's eventually how you're going to get stuff, you know, in many ways. It's going to be either drone, or it's going to be completely robotics driven, where they're, you know, vans with little, you know, robots in them that come and deliver out your package. I mean, FedEx is already testing stuff in, you know, in Memphis. They've been testing stuff for years now, you know, of these package deploying robots, right? It's no different. You know, the vehicle then goes and delivers the thing, and a drone can too, but it could also send you messages at the same time, right? Like think about what the advertising is on that. So I think there's a lot of stuff. I mean, even think about if the whole world is interactive. You now even just got your package of your new stuff, whatever it is, right? You just bought something. Here's all the recommendations that go along with it if your package is interactive, right? Do you know what I mean? You know, if it's interesting how it goes if you say everything in the universe can actually truly be, you know, something you could interact with, right? There's additional data there, you know, or additional information. It changes the way you're doing it. Like even just the details, like, you know, you have a desk, right? And maybe the desk is 100 years old, and you could sort of tap on the desk and it would tell you the history of the desk, or the manufacturer, or, you know, the details. What materials is it made of? Do you know what I mean? Now, maybe you want to find a chair that matches the desk, you know, here's the recommendations for the chairs, or here's who's selling one on, I'm just gonna say eBay, because, you know, in the future, I don't know, hopefully eBay will be there, but we'll see what happens. But right, here is someone who's selling one that's related to it on eBay, you know, and it's X. Do you want to bid on it? Yes, no, you know?
Okay. So what about like intrusive, those like our intrusive messages, or like, I don't know, cold calls or something like that. So how would the future approach cold calling? It's not going to be a phone, right? So
yeah, I think the only place you're going to get those, right, like those cold call messages in the future, my opinion, or those unsolicited, however you want to look at it, right, is when you're in public spaces, or you're using devices that aren't yours, meaning fully yours. Like, so if that robot's yours, you don't expect to have spam on it, right? You know, giving you messages. But if you're renting the robot, maybe that's part of, you know, that, or you're renting that drone, or you're in, you know, you're in an environment, and it's sort of like, think about it, you're visiting the gym. You know, you're at the gym riding, you know, your exercise bike. I don't know when I'm obsessed with bikes today, but you're riding your exercise bike, and now maybe there's other messages in front of you. I think maybe that
renting a home or an apartment, like maybe there's some sort of relationship there that removes certain restrictions. And so I mean, I don't want to go back to the robot, because I don't really envision it this way, but this is the only way I can describe it at the moment. Imagine like a robot comes to your door and is like, "Hey, are you interested in this?"
Hmm.
You know, but not like the sleazy salesman. It's more like someone delivers a cup of coffee, right, to
Hmm.
you, because your house knows you like coffee, and so someone
Right. 'Cause you,
delivers a cup of coffee, and on it is that unsolicited message. So
right.
the message can be on the thing that they know you like when you're in certain restriction-free zones.
Right. Well, that's almost what I was saying with the box, right? You ordered something. Here's the box, and now the advertising's part of the box, right? Meaning like really interactive part of the box, but it's the
Right,
same
but you ordered it. I'm talking about like someone just because remember it's intrusive. For me, it's like I didn't invite you here to sell me something. Like, please back
Well, but
up.
if someone's delivering the coffee, technically it's not intrusive, right? You know, because you ordered coffee or
No, I didn't order coffee. So
so
like it's
someone
like a
just
marketing tactic, like a giveaway, and they're trying to like
so
get it for
it's sort of like when you're at the supermarket and they're giving away free
free
food.
samples.
Yeah, and you go and you eat the chunk of cheese on the little toothpick, and they go, "Hey, do you want to buy whatever this cheese is?" Right? It's interesting because that's interesting because it's almost back to that door-to-door concept,
Yeah.
right? It's coming to you. But here's the thing: if we're 3D printing stuff anyway, or is it more like when you're 3D printing? Hey, here's some new coffee. Right? Here's some new whatever. You have the materials to 3D print it. Try it out, and it's sort of like, if we're creating our own, I mean, I could see it. I think it's just as, people have become smarter and smarter and those hard messages, people know with content marketing don't work as well. I think you're going to see less intrusive. I think it's going to be harder to be intrusive. I think it's going to have to be
But we
very
don't have
connected.
restrictions in this world.
I know, but I think what's going to happen is still it's the way they're going to act with it, not so much the laws around it, right? Because I know there's no laws, but I think people aren't going to interact with those things if they're not connected in at least some minuscule way. It's my opinion. I think also too. I mean, let's also talk about, it's interesting too because we develop a lot of interactive pieces for our clients, right? Like real interactive pieces of content. And I think that's really the beginning. Like if you look at where it is now how, and I'm not talking about virtual reality once again, like are those interactive pieces gonna sort of work with additional interactivity with your home, let's say? Is it going to be you're going to go and you're going to download, okay, I'm going to download my virtual workstation. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
You
I
know?
mean, I was thinking about, I mean, you're talking about the workstation. I was thinking about a project we just did where we did, for an engineer to walk through, a test and measurement lab, right? And so they want knowledge. They're looking for knowledge. So maybe I asked my friend, the engineer, my virtual friend, the engineer, for some information. And what happens is my surroundings transform to that
Right.
immersive kind of. So now instead of me just interacting on a computer, right,
Hmm.
or whatever, a device, I'm in there and I can, touch the things that aren't even there. And
Right.
now it pops up a product and I learn more about that. Or I'm in this immersive world.
Right. Or it shows you, like, say for instance, and this is why I went there, like, think about it. You're in your house and you're like, okay, whatever, I just moved in. I need couches, right? Let me see what the couches actually look like in my house. Like in this real, like, let me click on this.
And
And
Amazon's trying, right? I mean, they
right.
already tried
Yeah.
to do that.
But I think the whole thing is like, what's happening today, and obviously it's in its infancy, right? But what's happening today is no different than what was happening, let's be honest, in like the 90s and 80s, where you could buy some really cheap, piece of software that goes, oh, let me see how this furniture is going to fit, right? It's an advanced version of sort of like CAD software. Like you take a picture and then sort of place it, right? So it's like this really, it's really basic. I'm talking about like 3D hologram type,
Mhm.
you can see exactly what that couch is going to look
Right.
like.
And you don't have to worry about, you're not anchored to anything. You can walk around the couch.
Right.
You can see, okay, how much space do I have back here? Like it's really there.
Right, exactly. And also too, I could walk around my house and go, is it going to fit through my doors? Because I don't know about you, but there's been at least one time in my life where I ordered couches and I can't even get them in my house,
Mhm.
because of the doorways. So it's also one of those things, because the house is now a smart home, like a real smart home, what happens is it will know those things about your house. Like, will this couch even fit? No.
And your friend and your virtual social security card will be like, hey, don't buy that. You're never getting it through the doorway. I mean,
Exactly. And I think there's where you get a lot of, I think it's going to, the more I think about it, the more I think it's going to be really so tailored to the individual. It's going to be so recommendation based as they're moving through their environment. And I think that to me, the two most important things seem to be the aspect of the AI, right? And where the AI, how connected you are to that AI, and how immersive the world is. Well, I should say three things. Plus, the ability to get the products to you, meaning whether you're 3D printing it or where we talked about that sort of store that comes to you with those robots, it's being able to get those, I think, are the three things that really have to happen, right? For some of these really cool things to.
Yeah, I got really excited. I would like to live in that world that we created. I really would.
I think we will. I mean, I think some of these
I
things.
don't think we will. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I mean, I think the 3D printing stuff's a little bit further down the road where you're like literally 3D printing an entire couch or house. I mean, I know people are 3D printing houses, but you get my point. Like you're not, but I think that's a little further. I think some of the AI is getting there. I think the totally immersive house, that may be out of our life range, I guess you could call it.
And our virtual social security card friend.
Well, that's interesting. I actually think realistically, the AI is probably, because once you have the AI, right? Once you have that real intelligence, you could build those things. But I think the AI is the closest aspect out of all of those.
But really, I mean, to circle back to the beginning, we're talking about marketing. So even once those technologies come into play and you're living in those worlds, now advertisers need to figure out how to get their stuff to work in conjunction with all of those things. I mean, so that's even further away.
Right. So we're almost saying like like right now, say for instance, people go to websites and they learn things, right? It's almost like are the marketers or the companies, companies even going to need to create an AI that's your friend for whatever you're in, and you're getting that reciprocal relationship, right? That AI is helping you through the world, but at the same time, it's selling you a Coke. So it's like, hey, you look thirsty. Let me get your Coke. Do you know what I mean? And it summons over the little Coke robot to bring it over. But you get my point. Like, is it like, it seems like the AI is where companies probably should focus first, because that seems, as we're talking about this, seems to be one of the most powerful pieces.
I agree. So that's pretty much all I have on the future, the super future of marketing. But I am interested, I feel like sometimes we get so limited just by who we are. So I would love to have this conversation with people like, who did we talk to? Maria Bott, Billy, right?
Yeah.
Billy Barry, and Dr. Oh, goodness gracious, I can't remember anybody's name anymore. I'm losing it. But the robot psychiatrist, and I'm really dive into what their thoughts would be, but on the future of marketing, and incorporating those technologies, because I think once we can start to put it out there, maybe it could start to happen, like maybe people are like, well, I could do that,
Yeah. I can't wait to see. How it emerges.
All right, that's it. Now, don't forget to subscribe, and please let us know what your thoughts are on the future of marketing. We'd love to hear what your vision is. And I don't know, I got to cut that, but we'd love to see what your vision is.